So I am honored to have Vasavi Kumar with me, who has a website, vasavikumar.com. She's a life coach. She speaks the truth. She keeps it real, and I'm a fan. And I've only been actually following her for maybe 3 weeks, but I checked out her videos, and she has a YouTube channel. You can just Vasavi, Vasavi Kumar, Kumar. And you'll find it on YouTube, and she's got a whole lot of videos there. She does some great work. She's got some great advice, and I was able to get her as a guest so we could talk about all kinds of things. But first things first, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tony, for having me here. Love it.
All right. Well, now tell me about the book.
Yes, so last year was a huge year for me because up until that point, I'd held on to a secret. And I wasn't ashamed of the secret. I wasn't ready, right? I put that in quotes because you're never ready to do anything that's scary. You just got to do it. I wasn't ready to share my story. And so the secret, or the story that I wasn't willing to share, was the fact that, in 2002, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is a huge stigma, anywhere you go, mental illness of any sort. And I said, screw this. I gotta, I gotta help people. So I gotta get over myself, which I did. And I collaborated with Sandra Yancey, who's the founder of eWomen Network, and alongside, Marsha Weeder, who's the founder of Dream Coach, and Lisa Nichols, who was in the movie The Secret, who's also my mentor. I collaborated with, I think it was 43 other authors, and I shared my story called Bipolar and Brilliant. So that's what the book is about. It's called Succeeding in Spite of Everything. It's 40 something inspirational stories from women entrepreneurs. You can get it right on my site at vasavikumar.com. But I chose to share that story because for so long I was ashamed of it. And I said,
Right.
If I'm really committed to living my purpose and making a difference in the lives of others, I need to get over that, and I need to
Right.
stop that like yesterday. So that was a huge huge breakthrough, and since then it's just everything has just been amazing since then.
Well, it's interesting because with people of color, mental situations, mental illness is very taboo.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, mental illness in general is taboo, but mental illness, especially for women and men of colors, even more because there's so many other factors in play, right? The fact that you're a minority, the fact, maybe socioeconomic status, depending on what your group is. But it was huge, and I was on medication for 8.5 years, and this June 24th, will be 1 year that I've lived medication free. And I got to tell you, it's freaking awesome. I'm doing better now than I've ever done while I was on pharmaceuticals, So
Wow.
it's definitely my mission to help people set themselves free, whatever that looks like, right? Freedom for me looks very different than freedom for you, maybe,
Right,
So
right.
for me, freedom for me is speaking my truth, not the truth, because there's no
Right.
such thing as the truth. It's
Right.
my truth and your truth, and that's what I work with people on. Is what is the thing in your life that you need to stop doing so you can really have a life of freedom? I feel like in the self-help, personal growth industry, there's tons of you got to do this, you got to do this, and you got to do more of this, and it's like no. Stop adding on top of crap. Right? Let's take away the stuff that's weighing you down, and then we can create the kind of life that you want,
Sure. So I suffer from clinical depression, and I've tried to come off meds like twice, and it was a disaster. So I'm like, so now I take, because I just felt horrible. I felt like I was back in that cloud, back stuck in that mud, and I couldn't get out. So I got back on my meds, and on my radio show, I tell my listeners all know. I've had men come up to me and say that they've addressed their issues and found out they too suffer from depression, and they in some cases they've cried and told me that I basically, like, I saved their life and everything, which makes me feel good. But I always tell them, I say, you want to pay me back? And they say, how could I pay you back? I says, you pay it forward. If you see someone who's in obvious pain, suffering, something's going on there, open up and tell them about your struggle so they know that they can relate to you, and they know that they're not alone. That's how you pay me back, and that's been very successful for me.
Beautiful.
Now, your website, you keeping it real. The website is vasavikumar.com. But I guess what I wanted to, how did you get to that point where you were able to offer advice like this?
Well, I got to tell you, I fell on my face many times. I always say we always teach what we need to learn, and we learn what we need to teach. So my life has not been flowers and daisies and magic potion, dust, and fairy dust.
Yeah, right.
I grew up in a financially abundant house, so money was never an issue. My parents are immigrants from India. I was born and raised on, Long Island, New York, and I grew up in a financially abundant house. But money's not everything. Money gives you comfort. Money doesn't
Sure.
necessarily give you freedom
Right.
or happiness at all. It makes life a little easier, but not always. So, throughout my life, I always felt different. I was never really part of the in crowd, partially because my name was Vasavi and I look like this, and my mom wore a big fat red dot on her forehead. So it's so funny, Tony. The other day, I just got interviewed from this woman who interviews minority women entrepreneurs, and she asked me, "So, what kind of friends did you have growing up?" And I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? I didn't have any friends growing up. Nobody wanted to be my friend. In fact, I was the kid in school that the teacher would say, okay, does everybody have someone to play with on the playground? Meaning, Vasavi, do you have anyone to play with on the playground? So I'm sharing all this because, life was not easy. And I believe that God or the universe or your spirit, whatever you want to say, your higher power, he or she puts obstacles and struggles in our life. And he puts them in our life so that we can learn, we can look within, we can grow, and so to your point, we can pay it forward. Right? So I find myself, I don't claim to be like, I have a lot of formal education, my double master's in special ed social work from Columbia. I'm a certified coach, but that's not what makes me qualified, right? I got a lot of education and training, but what makes me qualified is the fact that I've fallen on my face multiple times and gotten back up. What I'm an expert at is getting back up. I'm an expert at getting back up. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to suffer. I know what it's like to believe the disempowering thoughts that we have in our mind and let that define you. For about 8 years of my life, I was addicted to cocaine and alcohol.
No.
Oh, yes. Yes.
No.
And I actually think it was, let me see, from the age of 19 up until 24. So yeah, 5 years, excuse me.
Okay.
So 8 years, because it was an 8 year window where it was really like drugs, alcohol, work, and, people pleasing. It was that 8 years of my life that kind of really sucked. But I don't regret a single thing that happened to me because I'm qualified. Trained me to be who I am, who I say that I am, and life is too short to sugarcoat things. Life is too short to be sitting in your fear. I now know more than ever that my life was put here to make a difference in the lives of others. So if I had to go through all that stuff to get here, then that's it.
VasaviKumar.com is the website, and so the advice you give, actually, it's more life experience than it is like common sense.
Common sense is not so common. So, you would think that people would understand that, if I think X, Y, and Z thought, I'm going to produce X, Y, and Z results. So if I think a negative thought, I'm going to speak negative words and I'm going to produce negative actions. And this is what I think, Tony. We all know deep down at the core of our being what the right thing is to do. And when I say right, I mean the thing that is most aligned with our highest and best self. We all know it. We don't apply it because change is hard. It's not easy. It's taken me, I'm 31 now. It's taken me these many years to get to this point. So I help people in their life. And because I'm really growing in my business and seeing a lot of success, I now love to work with women, female, creative entrepreneurs, and a few good men too. If you can take your gift, your art, whatever that is, for you, it's maybe interviewing people. For me, it's speaking on stage and being on TV, whatever. If you can take that, your gift, and use that to help another person and get paid for it, that's amazing. That's the intersection,
So your advice is really, it is geared toward women more, but that doesn't mean that you can't help a man in your situation.
At the core, we are all one. I know a lot of coaches out there that speak from theory. I don't talk about anything that I have not practiced myself, because if you want a theory, just Google something.
Right.
I'm not going to give you stuff that you can find on Google. So if you were to come to me and say, Vasavi, how do I get off medication? I can speak to that.
Right.
If you were to say, how do I bounce back from a divorce? Now, I've never gone through a divorce. However, I do, because I've studied and thought about things and analyzed, I understand the human condition very well. So I do understand, whether it's a divorce or a loss of a job or a loss of a family member, the ability to bounce back is something that I'm very good at. So I can help someone. But like I said, I speak from experience rather than, oh, I read it in a book, I'm going to teach it to you.
Are there questions that you won't answer?
Nope. I answer
okay.
whatever you want.
Have you ever been stumped by a question?
I mean, if it's like a statistical question,
Yeah.
I don't know the stats. Yeah,
Right.
I'll find out and get back to you. I don't need to. I don't.
Okay.
But you can ask me whatever you want.
Have you ever regretted an answer you gave somebody?
I think the number one thing that I've regretted, and I don't look at it as a regret, but I look at it as a learning opportunity. I'm very blunt, and for some people it can be brash or harsh.
Mm-hmm.
So what I work on, constantly is the approach.
Mm-hmm.
How am I saying what I'm saying so I'm not leaving anybody out? I have a section of my fan base, my audience that loves the keeping it real, no nonsense. But then there's another group of people that will be totally intimidated and like, whoa, this chick is aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really important that I don't leave anybody out. So at times when I'm speaking, I'll lower my voice. I will slow down my pace because I don't want to leave out the introverts. I don't want to leave out the people that I can come off as really scary or aggressive. For me, I'm all about inclusion, right? So while I'm going to be great for that person who's like, yeah, let's do it, there'll be people in the audience who are like, whoa, this chick is scaring me, So my main purpose and job when I'm up on stage is to make sure that that nobody's left behind, So I don't regret it. But I use it as a learning opportunity. But no, I don't regret anything. It is what it is. I mean, we learn from.
Well, that's true. That's true. Do you get a lot of people who follow up with the advice you give them and come back to let you know how it turned out? Do you get a lot of that?
Absolutely. I mean, I've had to learn from the time that I started business. When you first start out on business, you just want to work with people. You want to go out and make a difference. But I'm very selective about who I work with, because for me, sorry, my dog.
Oh, that's okay. That's your dog.
Yeah.
Laney, yes.
Little brat. I am selective, especially for my more higher priced programs, because I want it to be a win-win. I want investing money to work with me. I want you to see a result. And, if you're really going to invest in yourself, do the work. It's gratifying when my client has success in their life because it's just, there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing people invest tons and tons of money and not taking the action. So other programs that are not very expensive at all, $30. I'm coming out with the $197 program. And if you choose to take action, great. I mean, I'm all about, if you're going to invest in yourself, do something. Don't just let self-help become shelf help. Let it fit.
I got you. So I'm wondering, like, in your business model, because I mean, I'm in love with new media, and I like to help people. I've done videos called Mentor by Video, where I talk to young men who may be in crisis because they don't have a male role model in their life. So there's certain things they may not know. So I've done some videos like that. But as far as the stuff that you do, how do you know how much to charge for what you do? Do you look at what other people do that's similar to what you do? Or how do you put a price on something like that? Because I'm just curious how that works.
So, first of all, yeah, I definitely look at what's the standard in the market.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry about this. She's really.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
She may have a problem later on. She needs to talk to you about.
we have a lot of deep conversations, her and I. We do. But, so the way I look at it, okay. So my purpose is to make sure that people have access, which is why I created a $30 program. That's easy enough.
Sure.
Which is why I'm coming out with the $197 program. That's a step up. For me, it's all about creating value for people at multiple price points, so nobody left out. This is the funniest interview ever. I apologize.
Nah, don't worry about it, man. We're getting through it. I mean, your advice. The dog is a special guest. If we were after her, I'd have to pay her, but that's okay.
Yeah. So I look at what does the market need? What can the market afford? And then, I do have higher ticket items. I have $997. I have my live events. I do a Nourish Women's Retreat. We're doing one in Malibu in September. We sold out in 9 days. The way I priced it, I mean, it's just your costs. What's the profit that you want to make? And, what are your expenses, and so that's just straight up math. You know what I mean? It's I don't pull stuff out just like, oh, okay, I'm going to charge this much. It really is a matter of how much do I want to make from this? What are
Right.
my costs going to be? How much do I have to pay out? How much do I want to walk away with? Those are for my hire. Like I'm doing my first live event, like conference in New York City in May. So, already we're thinking about, okay, how much is a photographer? How much is catering? How much is a speaker? And the conference hall, whatever. So that's just sheer math. But, this really speaks about, Tony, especially when with entrepreneurs sharing their gifts with other people. I find so many people, especially women, but I'm sure men go through this too, feeling ashamed of charging. They feel like guilty almost, like asking for money. And it's like, how are you going to sustain yourself and your business if you're not charging for your services, right? You wouldn't go into a clothing store and just walk out with a pair of jeans without paying for it, right? It's the same thing. But for some reason, when it comes to our gift that we've been given by God and our higher power, we take it for granted. We feel bad charging for it. And I feel like I believe that it is my moral responsibility to cherish my gift. And the way I cherish for it is that there's a price tag, like.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so having said that then, so do you feel a responsibility? Like say if I was to say to you, and I'm not saying this to you, but I'm just saying for the sake of this conversation, you have these events coming up. Well, if I could offer my voiceover services and I would say I won't even charge you because I'm a fan. Would you insist on paying me something, or would you say, okay, he's a fan, and I'll just, I mean, how would you react to that?
I would say first thing, Tony, where are you choosing from? What is the intention behind that? Where are you making that choice from? Are you choosing it from, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving of being paid? You get to choose, where are you making your choice from?
Okay.
Say you're a grown man, if that's what you want to do, fine. But, I would ask, like, well, how come you don't want to charge? And so I would love to hear what's driving that conversation. Why would you say, well, I won't charge for it? Why not? If that's what you're good at, if you're doing voiceover, why wouldn't you charge for it? If you want, I give things away for free. I mean, if you go to my website, I have a ton of free content.
Yeah, you do.
But the number one thing that I would ask first is, where are you choosing from? Are you choosing from, I'm not good enough, I don't want to ask, it feels uncomfortable? Or are you choosing from, you know what, I just want to give this. It feels good to just give it. If that's the place, awesome, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Great. I'm all about the energetic exchange between giving our gift, and I do that all the time. People email me, they're like, can we get on the phone? I have my boundaries, right? So, get on the phone for a 15-minute conversation. That's fine. I know, though, as I expand, I can't do that.
Right.
There's only so much time. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. I was not expecting that answer or not. Now, if I were to answer that question, I guess it would fall somewhere between it's awkward for me to ask for money, and probably because I'm so in love with new media that I just want to help anybody I can in any way I can.
Okay, so that's really nice and gracious that you want to help. That's great. The first part is really what we got to speak about, right? You feel awkward or you feel comfortable. That's the conversation that you need to be having. You need to ask yourself, okay, how old was I when I learned that asking to be paid was awkward or uncomfortable? Who taught you that? Was it your mom? Was it your dad? Was it a grandparent? Who taught you that it's uncomfortable and awkward to ask for money? If you look at business as just business, right? Like money is a tool of trade, right? So if what you're offering me is something of value, I'm going to pay for it, right? It's just an energetic exchange. Money is just the value that you're contributing. So my women's retreat in Malibu, it's going to be awesome. There's going to be swimming pools, there's going to be yoga, there's going to be great food. I'm going to provide great value. I have no problem charging $1,800 for that retreat because you are going to get a ton of value from it. If you just look at money, right, it's just a tool of trade. I like what you have something great of value that you're contributing to my life, I will pay you for it. That's it. It's that simple. When it gets messed up is when we start getting like, oh my God, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. That's when the money conversation gets messed up,
She is Vasavi Kumar, VasaviKumar.com. We'll put the link in the show notes. She's amazing. You are amazing. You are keeping it real. You're amazing. I mean, your perspective is so different. It's strong. It's empowering, and it's very impressive. I got to tell you, I've talked to a lot of people who do this kind of thing, and you are different.
I'm special.
Yeah, you're special. That's it. You and Lainey. Yes, you and Lainey. So, well, I appreciate your time, your conversation with me, and we'll put all the information again in the show notes. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony, for having me.